Hello and welcome to Nice and Blunt. It's Saturday and there's some important injury updates that I need to get to because those players' status affect other roster decisions you need to make. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so I'm going to go by team alphabetically. I'm going to start in Buffalo, and we already know that Dawson Knox is out. He had hand surgery last week during the bye, and the fact that he is going to miss this game, it upgrades Emmanuel Sanders, who's my wide receiver 24, a must-start wide receiver for me this week, and also Cole Beasley, but he's still just in low-end flex territory because there's quite a bit of risk. It's very rare that Cole Beasley scores a touchdown, so he's just my wide receiver 44 this week. In Carolina, Terrace Marshall is out once again with a concussion, and this doesn't really impact anyone. He's only catching about 3 or less receptions a game, so I don't really think this moves the needle at all for Robbie Anderson. In Dallas, Dak Prescott is a game-time decision, and I do believe that he's going to play, but the offense would obviously take a dip if he doesn't. I think the efficiency would probably stall out. They probably won't score as many touchdowns, probably settle for more field goals, and they will probably lose this game if Dak Prescott isn't playing. But I think that it's going to be okay. They were very cautious with him in the offseason, and they had the entire week off. I think he'll be just okay, and that's why I'm not worried about Dak and not changing any rankings for anyone else. However, the player who I think would lose the most value if Dak were to sit would be Dalton Schultz. I don't think that the quarterback Ben DiNucci can support all of the wide receivers and the tight ends. So that's the only player I would downgrade. And it also looks like Michael Gallup is not going to return this week. Looks like he's going to be activated off IR next week, so he won't be available for this game. But he's an interesting bench stash if he is available off the waiver wire in your league. In Cleveland, Odell Beckham Jr. is also questionable, but I expect him to play. And one of the surprises, I thought he would at least be listed as questionable, is Jarvis Landry, who is just off the injury report completely. And he didn't look too good coming off the field last week on Thursday, but with a long week to prepare, it looks like he's fully healthy and ready to go. So this is a good sign. I've upgraded him into flex territory as my wide receiver 35 because this is a good matchup against Pittsburgh. They have been very susceptible against the pass, and I think Jarvis Landry is going to catch the most passes in Cleveland among all of the weapons in the passing game that they have. But I still think OBJ is too risky to start, so I would rather just keep him on the bench. But ideally, I'd rather not have him on my team at all because he's just a headache to own. In Detroit, TJ Hawkinson is off the injury report for the first time coming into a game this year, so that's a good sign for him. And DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams are questionable but expected to play once again, so I'm not worried about them. In Houston, Tyrod Taylor is still not available. He's still on IR, but he has been put in that window to activate him within 21 days. So either next game or the game after, Tyrod Taylor will be back. But I don't think that the Texans want him to start because Tyrod Taylor gives them a better chance to win, and they obviously want that number 1 draft pick and figure out their quarterback situation through the draft, not a trade, ideally. In Indianapolis, T.Y. Hilton is a game-time call as well, and I do think he will play. However, I'm not limiting Michael Pittman. I'm not worried about it at all. I think Pittman's still going to be the top target for the Colts, and if anything, this only helps the team to win, and it makes me more confident in my prediction that the Colts will beat the Titans this week. In LA, for my Chargers, Austin Eckler is also questionable, and he has a hip issue, so this is kind of new, but according to the coaching staff, they are hopeful that Austin will play Sunday. So I think this is a lot like what happened right before the season when they held him out of practice just before the first game of the year, and the fact that he had a little soreness coming off the bye week is probably why they're just being extra cautious, and I'm not worried about it. I think Austin's going to be fine. Just to put it into context, I have Austin Eckler on a team, and I have not picked up Justin Jackson. I'm not worried about it. He would be the number 1 backup if Austin Eckler were to sit, but I don't think he's going to get more than like 12 touches. I think this is definitely going to be a committee approach if anything were to happen to Austin Eckler, but I do not think that's going to happen and be an issue this week, and that's why I trust him as a top 5 running back this week. I have him as my number 2 in my rankings. For Miami, Devontae Parker, who's my wide receiver 40, is questionable, and it looks like he's going to play, but it's still not a guarantee. So make sure you check his pregame status, but it is an early game, so it'll be okay. If he plays, this limits the upside a little bit of Jalen Waddle, who's my wide receiver 37, and Mike Gesicki, my tight end 6. So it doesn't change things that much, but I'm really just worried about this matchup. I think it's very risky. They have a chance to be shut out once again like they were in week 2. So I'm worried that neither player scores a touchdown, and you're only interested in the floor if you're in a PPR league, like a full PPR league. Otherwise, I don't think either player is going to be a good option this week. But I still trust Mike Gesicki. On to New Orleans, though. Michael Thomas is still on IR, and we don't expect him back until next week at the earliest. So that's still not a lock. But I'm just not interested in any of the New Orleans wide receivers. If you're going to start Marcos Callaway, you got to be really desperate. He's my wide receiver 46 this week. And then for the Giants, Saquon Barkley and Kenny Golladay are out still. However, Sterling Shepard and Kadarius Toney are expected to play. They are both questionable at the moment. But I'm quite confident that they're both going to make their return. Sterling Shepard is my wide receiver 26 and a must-start wide receiver for me this week. And he was limited at practice on Thursday and Friday. So they have until Monday to get fully ready, and I think that he's going to suit up. I also trust Kadarius Toney inside the top 30 as my wide receiver 28. However, he was only limited on Friday. He did not practice on Thursday. But they're both just questionable, whereas other players are already ruled out. So I trust both of them. I think they're pretty good flex options, and they're both going to average about 10 targets apiece in this game. So I like the floor, especially in PPR. And then for the Jets, Corey Davis is doubtful, and basically that means that he's out. So Jamison Crowder might see 10 targets in this game, but he has a very low yards per reception, and I doubt he finds the end zone. I think this is going to be a very tough game for all of the Jets against Cincinnati, and I wouldn't really want to start any Jet in this game. I think you're asking to lose if you do that. The only one I'd really consider is Jamison Crowder in a PPR format strictly. Without Corey Davis, Zach Wilson is not going to have many open receivers, and I expect the Jets to punt a lot on Sunday. Philadelphia, Miles Sanders was placed on IR, so this just cements Kenny Gainwell as an interesting flex option for at least 3 games. He's definitely going to be in my top 25 pretty consistently. However, playing alongside Jalen Hurts, there's just no Philadelphia running back that's a must-start top 20 play. Their touches are really limited, and this is still a committee in Philadelphia. So the one I would prefer is Kenny Gainwell, but I'd rather not trust on him as anything more than a flex option. In Pittsburgh, Eric Ebron has been ruled out, so Pat Freiermuth is the guy at tight end, but he's just my tight end 19, not a guy you're really counting on. In Seattle, Alex Collins is questionable, but I do expect him to play, and he's my running back 23 in my rankings, so he's just a flex option similar to Kenny Gainwell, and it's really just because this offense is quite anemic with Geno Smith. So if you are really desperate and have to pick a Seattle option to start, my preferred next best option behind DK Metcalf is Alex Collins over Tyler Lockett, but I'm not excited about either option. I'd rather stay away. In San Francisco, Deebo Samuel was a little bit of a scare on Wednesday. He didn't practice, but he's my wide receiver 4 in my rankings, and he's off the injury report entirely, so you can light him up. You definitely trust him as a lock-it-in top 10 play at the wide receiver position. In Tampa Bay, Antonio Brown is out, but Gronk is just questionable, and he was limited at practice Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So that means I think he's going to play. I think as long as you have Gronk, you are probably going to start him, and the game time is a little bit unfortunate. It's a mid-afternoon game, but I think he is a must-start if he's active. He's my tight end 2 and has pretty much the highest upside of any tight end other than Travis Kelce. So I trust him, but let's just make sure that he is active before you start him. And then in Tennessee, Julio Jones has been ruled out. So yet another player whose game status just makes me more confident that the Colts will win this game. And that all that means when it comes to the Titans is there's just going to be more of A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry, so you can definitely trust them. But Ryan Tannehill may get sacked 1 or 2 more times because he just has to hold on to the ball a little bit longer and doesn't have an option to throw to. So that's pretty much it. In Washington, Curtis Samuel is out, but at this point, you are not counting on him at all, so it doesn't really change anything. And that wraps up all of the teams. So those are the injury updates for Week 8. I wish you good luck. And if you have a start-sit question, go ahead and leave me a comment down below. I'll be happy to get to it as soon as I can. But I do live on the West Coast, so if you're expecting it in the morning, I'm going to try and wake up a little early, but just keep that time change into consideration. Anyways, my name is Adam Riancho, and thank you so much for watching Nice and Blunt. Good luck tomorrow, and through Monday. Let's get this W.